I always think it's a pretty healthy thing to distinguish a difference between something being the best and something being your favourite. Like, the greatest movies ever made aren't necessarily your favourite ones ever, just like your favourite movies aren't necessarily good. Spider-Man 2 falls into this category in a sense, because while it might not necessarily be my favourite superhero movie, I mean hell, it's not even my favourite Spider-Man movie, we will get there, I do genuinely, with my whole heart, believe that this is the closest we've come so far to the perfect superhero story. There's always this risk that a sequel fails to capitalise on its potential and improve on what came before, but this excels. It refines, expands, and perfects an already fantastic iteration of a character, understanding the hero on a deeper level, stripping Peter down to his core and allowing him to explore the struggles and the weight of being Spider-Man. And then, despite the heavier emotional themes, Spider-Man 2 never loses that energy, its sense of fun, or the unmistakably present personality. It's the kind of thing where everything fits together seamlessly, creating something that transcends traditional comic book media, becoming a fantastic movie on its own. So, what is it about Spider-Man 2 that cements it as what is, in my opinion, the greatest existing comic book movie to date? Well, let's find out and get into that.
But just because you can beat him up doesn't give you the right to. Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, we get it, Uncle Ben. By the time this sequel begins, Peter has already learned the lesson, but as it shows us, learning and living it are two very different things that each come with their own challenges. Spider-Man was all about learning responsibility, and Spider-Man 2 is about the weight of that responsibility, what it takes from him, and whether or not he can bear it. This movie poses the question that ultimately defines this entire character in a funnily tragic way. What if being a hero makes every other aspect of your life infinitely worse? Peter's world is falling apart, his grades are failing, he can't keep up with rent, we watch him get fired from a job in the opening scene. And worst of all, it's creating a rift between him and those he cares about. MJ is moving on, Harry resents his alter ego, and Aunt May is struggling to keep up with her own life. It's showing that being Spider-Man is actively ruining his life. I was never in credit card debt before I put on this mask. Then his powers begin to fail. At first it seems like some sort of physical problem, but the movie soon makes it abrasively clear that this is psychological. Peter is losing faith in himself, he doesn't want to be Spider-Man anymore, and his body is responding to that. Taking inspiration from the Spider-Man No More arc from the comics creates such a powerful storyline here. Giving up the mask signifies a desire to reclaim his own life, and for a brief moment he does that, and he's actually happy. He goes to school consistently, he finally gets to see MJ's play and live without the constant weight of responsibility. But as we'd expect, it doesn't last, because deep down, part of him is always gonna be that hero. Not because he has powers, but because he chooses to be, and that's the ultimate message of the movie. Responsibility isn't just this obligation, it's a choice, and when Aunt May tells Peter that the world needs heroes, it's a reminder of who he is, of the people he can save, and of the why behind that suffering. By the time Peter returns to his mantle in the third act, he has embraced that responsibility as a willing hero. It's no longer a case of doing what he feels he has to do, it's what he wants to do, and that is what defines him as one. Spider-Man 2 is an overarching story about choice. Every character is defined by the things they do and how those choices shape their identity. Peter spends this film caught between two lives, being Spider-Man or being Peter Parker. He does want both, but multiple attempts to attain that only come with failure. The city needs Spider-Man, but the people around him, his friends and his family, need Peter. The beauty of his arc in this movie is that it isn't this perfect narrative. It never gives him that easy way out, because being a hero is always going to cost something. But the difference between the start and the end of the film is that by the time he puts the mask back on, he's choosing to be Spider-Man, fully understanding the burden that accompanies it. Otto is the perfect antagonist within this story because in many ways he's what Peter could become, acting as some sort of parallel like Norman was in the first movie. He starts out as a guy with noble ideas in mind, someone who wants to make a difference and change the world. But when his demonstration fails, his arrogance and grief lead him down a destructive path. His mechanical arms represent those darker impulses that he's controlled by. Unlike Peter, he refuses to accept responsibility for those failures. Instead of stepping back and recognising where he went wrong, he doubles down, casting the blame to Spider-Man and those around him. That's why I love how his story ends. He finally makes the choice that he should have made from the beginning, even if it cost him his life, but he doesn't waver in the face of that. At that moment, he and Peter are both on the same page. Both of them have struggled through hardship, both of them have lost, but one of them was able to find his way back. Otto's last words being, "I will not die a monster," are his way of reclaiming his old life, proving that, like Peter, he was blessed with the power that is choice. MJ and Harry are also reflections of Peter and that struggle. MJ is the life that Peter wants but believes he can never have. She loves him, but he keeps pushing her away because he doesn't want to endanger her. Meanwhile, Harry contrasts this with his revenge slowly consuming him. By the end of the film, Peter makes the decision to let MJ in, choosing to be with her despite the inevitable risks that come with it. Harry, in another contrast, makes the choice that Otto did, giving in to the anger rather than responsibility, setting up his oncoming downfall. And finally, there's Aunt May. Her speech about what it takes to be a hero is one of the most important moments in this entire trilogy. Peter needs these words, he needs to believe them.
I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble.
It's not power that makes us, it's character. And when Peter finally embraces that, when he chooses to be Spider-Man because he wants to, that's when he truly becomes the hero he was always meant to be. The action is also at its best in this movie. It's not just cool choreography and big set pieces, every scene feels full of emotion. Take the train fight for example. This is easily one of the best superhero action sequences we have. The way it escalates, the raw physicality of it, the blend of practical effects and CGI, it's all incredible. It's also driven intensely by character. The stakes here are constantly shifting, from trying to avoid oncoming trains to trying to stop one from derailing entirely. Every punch, every swing, every desperate act is rooted in struggle. Whether it's a fight or it's failing to swing across rooftops when its powers give out, the action isn't just spectacle here, it's storytelling. Raimi's reliance on the practicality of filmmaking gives every scene an added weight. Even the smaller beats carry so much impact because we feel the effort behind them. Sam Raimi's kinetic energy is all over this movie. From fast zooms to the way that Doc Ock's tentacles move, those sequences are intense, sometimes even brutal, while retaining this sense of fun. It's playful when it needs to be, terrifying when it has to be, and always more than just the fight itself. That's mainly why the action in Spider-Man 2 holds up today. It's not just about what looks cool, it doesn't rely on spectacle, it's about what means something. Every moment tells a story, every hit carries weight, and every battle is about more than just winning. It's about who Peter is, what he stands for, and what he's willing to sacrifice. Some movies are special because of a particular element. An incredible performance, a mind-blowing action scene, or a unique visual style. But this is great in all of those ways. Every part of this film, this story, the characters, the action, the visuals, works in harmony to create something that feels genuinely complete. It resonates on a deep level because we feel Peter's struggles. His pain, his exhaustion, his moments of joy, they all hit because the movie builds an effective emotional core. Every choice from Raimi's direction to Elfman's score reinforces the weight of Peter's journey. The action sequences are emotionally driven, the quiet moments give us a window into Peter's soul, and even the humour, the pizza delivery, the landlord demanding rent, the raindrops keep falling on my head scene, they all add to the overall experience. There's a perfect balance of camp and sincerity, which is something Spider-Man 2 does better than every other superhero film I've seen. There's no self-awareness, no need to wink at the audience. The emotions, the stakes, the relationships, all of it's played completely straight. Peter's pain is real, Otto's descent into villainy is tragic, and MJ's frustration with Peter is understandable. It's a movie that believes in its own sincerity, and that goes such a long way in helping you connect with it. The movie is an experience that feels complete. It's a great one, telling a compelling story, delivering breathtaking spectacle, and leaving us with characters we truly care about. And in the end, when Peter swings off into the city, fully embracing who he is, we don't just see a hero, we see a person who has fought, struggled, and earned his place. Now, there has been plenty of great comic book movies over the years, but in my opinion, none of them have ever captured the heart of a hero quite like this one does. Spider-Man 2 is a deeply personal story wrapped in a grand spectacle. A film that blends high-stake action with an emotional core that resonates on a universal level. It's about Spider-Man, yeah, but it's also about a man struggling with the weight of responsibility, the pain of sacrifice, and the fight to stay true to himself. Even today, this has set the gold standard for what a superhero movie could be. Its DNA can be felt throughout every great comic book film that has followed. Christopher Nolan took the emotionally driven storytelling and sense of grounded realism into his Batman trilogy. The Spider-Verse films took the sincere love for the character and built on it, even referencing moments from these movies. Even the MCU, for all its differences, has borrowed from the way that Spider-Man 2 balances heart, humour, and heroism. It understands its protagonist, it shows us why Spider-Man matters, reminding us that being a hero isn't about strength or power, it's about choice. Peter doesn't choose to be Spider-Man because he has to be, he chooses it because he believes in helping people. That's the heart of this movie, and it's why, after all these years, we're still waiting on a superhero movie that tops it in that regard. There's a reason why Spider-Man 2 still resonates after all of these years, and it's that despite the heightened concept of a superhero, this movie is about something real. It's about responsibility, sacrifice, and the struggle to do what's right, even when it costs everything in return. Peter is far from perfect. He fails, he stumbles, he wants to give up, but that's exactly what makes him inspiring. This movie reminds us that being a hero is about endurance more than anything else. It's about making the hard choices, even when no one is around to give you credit for doing so. It's about how many times you get up after you fall. It has one of the greatest action sequences ever put to a comic book film, it gave us one of the greatest comic book movie villains of all time, and it gave us humour, heart, and a story that feels just as powerful now as it did back when this thing released. And more than anything, it gave us the perfect Spider-Man story, one that understands why this character has meant so much to so many people over the years. That's why Spider-Man 2 is one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. Not because it's the biggest or the flashiest, but because it just gets it. It understands what makes this character special, and it reminds us that with every hard-fought battle, every sacrifice, and every web swing through the city, that anyone can be a hero.